Hey, welcome to Alum House Sound. My name is Dave, and today we're going to talk about in-ear monitors on a budget. So recently, Phenyx Pro reached out to me. They wanted me to review some in-ear monitors because you guys are always looking for great products. So they sent me, so this is the Phenyx Pro PTM-22. They sent this to me to review. This is not a paid advertisement, but they wanted me to review it and let you guys know what I thought about this product. So I did what you did. I ripped into the box, opened it up. We'll talk about that next. And I promptly used it at my most recent service where I was playing drums. All right, so the PTM-22, that is this unit here. It is a dual in-ear monitor setup. You've got kind of an A side and a B side, mix one, mix two, whatever you want to call it. But this feels good. When you first pull it out of the box, it feels strong, sturdy. It's not like a cheap plastic unit that maybe you might buy from other manufacturers. Phenyx Pro really does a good job of getting a good quality product out at an inexpensive price. I want to start out with looking at what's in the box before we start to look at all the connections and settings. So let's go ahead and open this thing up from the get-go and let's show you what's in the box.
So this box is literally fresh out of the packaging. We're taking the cellophane off, and I'm really stoked to get my hands on this Phenyx Pro PTM-22 unit. But let's go ahead and open up the lid, show you what comes in this box. Again, this is a 2-mono in-ear monitor unit. And so we break this out. We've got an instruction manual, a nice Phenyx Pro sticker. You do have the cables for extending those antenna out to the front. Got a power adapter. Does come with batteries for each of the body packs. These body packs do feel very durable. They are a all plastic material, and they've got an antenna, a volume knob, and an output for your in-ear monitors to plug into. A second body pack, you've got 2 half wavelength antenna that plug into the back. One is for each of the in-ear monitor units. And then you have the main unit here. This is the PTM-22. It's got big, easy to use buttons, very basic connections on the back, and this thing is solid and ready to rock. On the side, we do have 2 screws on the front that can rack mount this. There are some ears that come with this as well. And it does come with 2 sets of in-ear monitors. So these are going to be some earbuds that you can just get up and running with. I did not test these out, so I'm not sure of how they sound, but they're basic in-ear monitors. You got a pair of them, one for each of your users. And again, you've got some little buttons here that you can put in the bottom if you want to keep this table mounted versus using the rack mountable ears right there.
All right, so once you got this PTM-22 out of the box, this thing, first off, it just feels great. It's got a good weight to it. It doesn't feel like a cheap plastic unit that maybe you buy from a competitor. But some of the other features are just easy to use. It's got big controls on the front. You've got kind of section A and section B on the far side. You've got a volume knob, so if your input signal is pretty low, you can adjust that volume here. You'll be able to see a readout on the screen. We'll see that later on when I plug it in. You can change the group and channel, so you can go between any of the frequencies that are available for this versus this one. One thing I'll point out, and we'll talk about this later, is that the frequencies don't overlap. So you've got, within that 900 megahertz frequency band, you've got some frequencies dedicated to mix A, some frequencies dedicated to mix B. But you can change your group and channel, and then you've got some sync buttons in here with a little IR thing. So you just press and hold that button. Once you let go, it's going to blink at you. You take your receiver body pack, stick it in front, and it's automatically going to set your body pack to match with whatever channel you've selected your mix to go to. But that's on the front. Now, another thing to mention real quick before I go away, you can buy other body packs. So if you wanted to share mixes, you can have maybe your keyboard and horn players on the same mix. You could buy multiple packs, sync them all to the same channel. They're going to have the same mix. Maybe you've got a bunch of guitarists and they're going to be on the same mix. Okay, that's a lie. Guitarists will never share the same mix. You can go ahead and have multiple body packs going on the same mix if that becomes a necessity for you. Let's talk about the back of this unit here. First and foremost, it comes with half wavelength antenna, and I love that. My other brands that I've purchased only come with quarter wavelength antennas, and I end up needing to upgrade that just to get the best signal possible in my environment. We've got one antenna for each mix, so pretty simple right there. You got a pad button here. This is going to go from 0 down to minus 12 dB. So if you've got an amplified signal coming into this, you have to push it in here, maybe a headphone output from something else that's an amplified signal. You can drop this down to minus 12 and it's going to pad that signal down so you're not peaking the unit. You've got inputs here and throughputs. This is a mono setup, so you've got a left mono input, or you could put a secondary input, and we'll talk about that in just a second, but this is going to take input signals through, inputs, and then they could also be throughput out if you needed to. But it's a pretty basic setup on the back here. You've got power. That's it. Plug it in, put this thing to use. Now, one of the things to point out, if you're like me and you want to pick this thing out of the box, plug it in and start to use it, you've got a challenge that you might run into. I've got stage boxes on stage that have XLR outputs, and this thing does not have XLR outputs. So you've got two options. Either you've got something like this, which is going to be kind of an XLR to quarter-inch adapter. But if you plug that in and you've got to plug in a secondary input or something like that, that's a little bulky. So maybe you have to get an XLR to quarter-inch adapter cable. Those are common to use as well. So if you're going to pack this into a rack unit that's going to sit on the side of the stage with a stage box, you got to keep that in mind about your cabling. For me, I grabbed it and I just had an extra quarter-inch to quarter-inch cable, and I went ahead and plugged this into my aux out on my board, on my console. I did a little bit of routing, and I was up and running really, really fast. All right, so most of my viewers know that I'm a tech director at a church here in Richmond, Virginia. We meet at a historic movie theater. This place is awesome to worship in. It has its challenges, though, and one of those is that we don't get to leave all of our gear set up from week to week, right? We set up our tech booth every week inside of the middle of the seats, and we've got a bunch of stuff pre-wired on stage, which is great, and this unit would be allowed to stay pre-wired on stage, but there's just a lot of moving components. Another challenge of our space is there are 3 TV stations and I think 6 different radio stations around us, so RF frequencies are at a minimum of what's available. So I went ahead and just took this thing right out of the box. I plugged it in the Sunday after I got it. I just literally turned it on, took the body pack, and now I had it sitting on my console, which for me is about 60 feet away from where I was playing drums. I had the body pack on my belt, under my shirt, and it did not have direct line of sight. There were a couple times throughout the service that if I moved a certain way, it might have a quick little drop, but it was just for a second, and then it was back up, and it wasn't a showstopper or anything, but it is going to work really well if you have direct line of sight. So a lot of people like to have this antenna, out of their clothing line and visible to the antenna. So when I mount this onto the side of the stage, I'll have these quarter wavelength or half wavelength antenna out on the front, and then my musicians will be able to wear these, and it'll be a much closer throw and less interference, and hopefully we can find some good channels to use that don't have any drops. But again, I literally pulled this out, plugged it in, turned this on, stuck my monitors in my ears, and went and played a service. So we were up and running really fast. Now, another thing to think about is what are some other uses for this? My first place to go is using this in a service because production is kind of what we do, but I don't have access to my venue during the week to practice in. So we have a whole separate studio, and I'll show that to you here. We've got a studio here, and this is where we practice. It's part of another building that we own, but we don't use it for worship. This is just a rehearsal studio, as you can tell. But we've got this analog console. It's a basic analog console. It doesn't have to do anything fancy for us. We plug in some mics. This way, the guitarists don't have to bring amplifiers. We can get the vocals above the drums, and we can rehearse. But it has two monitor mixes, two aux mixes, and I want to have a way to introduce in-ear monitors to my newest musicians. We're always bringing in new musicians. We're always growing young musicians. As young as 16 we'll have on stage, and so they don't have any other experience with in-ear monitors outside of what we do on Sunday morning. So if I can get them a way to come into practice and start getting used to having monitors in their head, how do they tune the monitors with the basic controls on this analog console, then we can take the 1/4-inch outs, shove them into the back of this Phenyx Pro unit, and now we've got two monitor mixes that we can go ahead and have people start to learn what it feels like to have monitors in. Do they feel alienated? Do they feel a part of the room? What is that experience like before they get out onto our main stage for a Sunday service? All right, so here we've got the PTM-22 fired up. I've taken just my phone. I've got some pre-recorded music coming out. I've got the left signal going in here and the right signal going in here. So it is the same song, and while it's a stereo recording, it will have some slight differences from left and right. I want you to see the capability of how we take the same signal and we could alter it if necessary. So first and foremost, this volume on the left is at 50%. The volume on the right, you can see I've adjusted up there, it's at 75%. So we have more signal coming in on the right than we do on the left. Now with our body pack here, if I turn this on, you might be able to see that it has signal showing there. We've got a couple other features. You can see the group and channel in there, RF frequency, even battery life, it's pretty nice in there. But if I wanted to change signals, or groups and channels, all I've got to do, this is 601, which is linked to this one here on the right. But if I do sync 1, and then I hold this in front of it, now you can see it's synced with group 1 and channel 1. So now it's getting the signal from the left one as opposed to the right one. But like any body pack, you've got volume control on the top, you've got a mic input, and you've got your battery input there. So it's super user-friendly, again, getting the connections done and getting some signals going in. But this will take anything in, and it's going to sum it to mono. So you've got a left and a right input, and let's talk about that for a second. So this input here, you can see I've got plugged in an input into the left mono input. So this, I could control volume control coming from the source. So if this was a mix from the soundboard, then I would have maybe a bus master control or something like that. On the right, if I wanted to plug, say, a click track in, I could plug an additional input. I would have volume control from that device going into this. That would all get summed into mono and go into both of my ears with this device. So it is a mono unit, but it's got two input capabilities. So that brings up some other flexibility, options that we could use. This is all that's necessary is a left input. You'll get that signal into both of your ears. All right, well, hey, I hope you found this video helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Phenyx Pro gear down in the comments section if you've used any before, or what are some other things you'd like to know about this product. Thank you to Phenyx Pro for sending me this PTM-22. It's really been a great thing to test out, and I am going to use it starting in 2026 in production in my church environment. That's how much I've trusted it so far. We're going to see how it does over 6 months and 12 months, and maybe I'll do a 12-month review of this product and let you know anything that I experienced from there. But if you've got questions or comments, leave those down in the comment section below. If you want to start a conversation outside of YouTube, if you need some one-on-one help, go ahead and in the description, find my website, fill out the contact card, and we can get you help outside of YouTube. But that's it for this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.